I am 3 months pregnant and I think my husband is having an emotional affair. I don't know what to think or do, and I don't want to share this with someone in real life until my thoughts become clearer. I love my husband like crazy, and I always thought he loves me too. He is very caring and amazing and was genuinely very happy when we found out I am pregnant. I have never suspected him of infidelity in the 11 years I have been in a relationship with him and the 4.5 years we have been married. This incident happened yesterday evening. We had just announced the pregnancy news on various family WhatsApp groups. My phone screen hasn't been working lately, so I sent thank you messages to our well-wishers using my husband's phone. He was in the bathroom at the time. In his WhatsApp, I found a coworker's name in the recently contacted list, and my husband's latest message to her looked a bit strange. I don't know what possessed me to do it, since I am not a very suspicious person, but I clicked her contact to find that they had been chatting almost every day, which felt strange as he rarely mentions her to me in passing, and he often regales me with many stories of his coworkers. I was rapidly scrolling through the messages, which looked like very deep conversations, when I saw my name popping up. My husband had written in the midst of some conversation that I don't enjoy outdoor activities much, and so he has to go on trekking trips alone very often and is bored sitting at home or having staycations. She replied saying that she loves outdoor sports too, and the conversation continued. I put the phone back immediately since I felt like crying. It's true that I am not an outdoorsy person, and he knew it when he married me, just like he isn't a fan of some of my hobbies like reading. We both respect each other and compromise equally. I have gone on several adventurous trips with him in the past, and he has also elected to stay in cozy villas for a vacation instead of non-stop adventure. My husband came out of the bathroom asking why I looked upset, and I made up some excuse about hormones and being sick, and went to bed early. I could literally not face him. I called in sick to work today and pretended to be asleep until my husband left for work. He prepared breakfast for me and has called at least 3 times today to ask if I am feeling better and if I want him to buy some medicines on the way back home. He is acting like the way he always is, the perfect husband who loves me like anything. But now I feel like everything is a lie. I feel like I may be overthinking and it is just an innocent friendship and not an emotional affair, and other times I think that our marriage is ruined. I know I should confront him, but I don't know how. I love him and our baby, and I don't want our relationship to end. Please help me out to manage my emotions. New suspicions during reconciliation. WH had 3-year EA that turned into PA for 1 year. Met someone online at start of COVID who lives out of state. One of our kids has a chronic illness and his closest friend like a brother passed away from COVID first week of lockdown. We also found out kid came out of remission during that first year and had some career issues. I found out about affair this year. One of the most hurtful aspects was that it was going on while I thought we were together during the shutdown. I felt so grateful that we were compatible enough to survive that time while other marriages imploded from too much togetherness. The joke was on me. We are in MC and will both be in IC soon. My emotions are raw. They talked, texted, sexted throughout the day, almost never missed a day from what I can tell. He seemingly went NC after I found out, gave me access to his phone, etc. Over time I stopped checking the phone. I have asked a few times to see it in past weeks and a couple times not all he's refused. Other things I've noticed: staying up in different parts of the house. When initially he would make a point to be near me to not give me reason to wonder what he was doing. Last night I looked at his phone and saw an outgoing Snapchat call to someone who is not in his contacts. Name seemed off and not a name I recognized, but I couldn't investigate further. I assume there's no reason for a full-grown man to be making calls through Snapchat. Later he fell asleep on the couch for a short period, which I found a smidge suspicious. When he came to bed, he initiated sex twice and it was pretty mind-blowing. So how I am wondering if he was chatting with someone, reconnected with his AP though avatar was of a completely different physical profile, was watching porn. Ike. He is a very disciplined and responsible person in terms of diet, exercise, his routine aside from the affair, but I have wondered how it is possible from a human nature perspective to go cold turkey on that kind of thing and wonder if he fell off the wagon. I am not seeking advice, opinions on if I should leave. It's a complicated situation, and it may well not work out. I am more crowdsourcing to try and understand the actions I am witnessing and for suggestions on how I can track what's going on. I can't leave yet, and committed to giving him a chance to redeem himself. But I want to collect information to protect myself if I need to leave. He's my tech guy and I obviously can't go to him with this tech question. And he's infinitely more tech savvy than I am. Tia. Update: what do I do first? My 29F boyfriend 37M dropped on me that he wants kids after almost 2 years and I'm realizing I have to go. Update to original post. So several people requested an update. Boy, have I got one for you. I dropped my vehicle at the mechanics on Friday, and waited until Tuesday to hear anything back. He called me back on Tuesday afternoon, once I was just off of work, to tell me that he had diagnosed the problem, and it was going to be less than $300 to fix it. He told me it would be about a week before it was done. I began to make arrangements with a kind coworker of mine for rides to work, and then that evening I got a call from the mechanic again. He told me that he had gotten hold of the part he needed, replaced it, and that my car would be ready for pickup that evening. Tuesday night when I got home from this, however, my boyfriend and I ended up in an extremely intense discussion, during which he once again clarified that he doesn't give two shits about getting married. Not only did he make us abundantly clear, he actually spent about 2 hours essentially dismissing, minimizing, and deflecting the importance of marriage to me, and kept throwing it in my face that the way I feel about marriage with him is the way he feels about kids with me. He said nothing would change if we got married, but when I asked why it matters so much if nothing would actually change, why wouldn't he just get married to me since it's obviously important to me, I got no response of any substance, only deflection and patronization. It was honestly devastating, and I couldn't do it justice typing it out, but I spent from 9:00 p.m. until 1:00 in the morning crying and I sobbed myself to sleep. There was no room for denial at that point, and because my vehicle had miraculously been fixed, I had an out. Wednesday I contacted a local landlord who I have rented from previously. I asked if they had any units available, and they did, within my price range, at a flat rate. She told me she would call me back and she did, and she said I could come in the next day to look at it, which brings us to today. After I got off work, I went straight to the landlord's office and called the keys to go look at the apartment. It's tiny, but it's perfect. I decided to take it, and I knew that when I got home, I had to tell him. He came home after me, and when he walked in the door I asked if he had any plans made prior that evening and he said no. I didn't want to disrupt anything that he had intended to do with the conversation of me moving out, but it turned out that he didn't, so we had it. I initiated by telling him I was moving out, and when he asked why, I told him that it was clear from our conversations over the last couple of weeks that there have been a lot of unspoken expectations that were affecting our relationship and there was no way to gain clarity about those while we were living together. In that conversation, he told me that he had invested everything in our relationship, and he asked me what I had invested. He acted as though I had railroaded him through our entire relationship, and told me that he was compromising on having children, but the one time that he asks me for anything, I refused to compromise. He guilt-tripped me again about how he's either having kids with me, or he's not going to have them at all due to his age, and this is his last chance. He told me he'll never date again if our relationship doesn't work. He blamed me for having to explain what is happening to his daughter, and based on what he said, I don't think he's going to let me say goodbye to her. He was surprised when I told him that I wanted the dog to stay with him, and I said I am doing this because marriage and children and relationships don't have a gray area. I don't see a way to bridge that gap, because we want different things essentially, and I said I'm not ending the relationship because I don't care about him, his daughter, our life, the dog, anything, but I'm doing it because I believe this is the right thing to do right now. I even told him I could be wrong, but I wasn't sure what else to say, and he went back to marriage, not changing anything about the relationship, and minimizing the value of it. He said he would still essentially be doing everything in the relationship, and committing to it, without marriage, and I responded to that by saying I didn't understand how he could make all these commitments and invest so much, but be unwilling to fully commit through marriage. And the final nail in the coffin for me was when he said he views marriage as an institution, and he doesn't need a piece of paper to validate his relationship, and that he, unlike me, was not brought up in a religious environment of sheep that led him to believe marriage was the make or break of a successful relationship. After that, I cried a lot. I went to get some ice cream, and I feel better now. I'm going to start moving my stuff into the new apartment tomorrow, and everything worked out at a rapid rate that tells me I'm on the right track. Thanks to the community for the encouragement here. I thought I was going crazy, and then after this conversation tonight, I realized that the only time I actually feel crazy is after I talk to him. I'm also looking forward to having my own place again, quiet, just for me. I know that I'll still be sad for a while, but I also know that I'm going to be okay. Episodes 5 months later. Original post: It's been 5 months since I found out and my 5-year relationship ended. For the most part, things have been much better as of recent. Things in my career seem to be taking off in a good way and I'm excited for what's to come. However, this whole thing still kinda bugs me in a way, but honestly it's more of an annoyance at this point. I'm just annoyed by her and how everything went down, but I definitely feel like I'm moving on. However, it's been a little more difficult as of recent. I met a really cool girl a couple months ago and things were actually going really good, and I really liked her, but in a weird way I just couldn't bring myself to get more serious with her, and I feel really bad about that happening. But if I'm being honest, 1, I really do think that she just wasn't someone I could see having a long-term future with, and 2, as much as I absolutely don't want to admit it, that maybe deep down inside, I'm not over her yet, and or my heart doesn't want to move on. I absolutely hate that. I hate that I still feel attached, cause I want to move on. I'm so done, but if I have to absolutely be honest with myself, I don't know if I really am over her. I'm writing this at 5 a.m. cause I woke up from a nightmare in which she has moved on and she's talking about another person. This is the first time I think I've been affected by this in a while and it hurts. I just wish she was truly gone from my mind and my heart. I want to move on. I hate having this attachment to this person. It's so painful. I still truly feel like I've been in a nightmare even 5 months later. Nothing feels real. I need help somehow, some way. I genuinely don't know if I'm okay. It's been 6 months. I've come back. We've fallen back into life. We are having sex, fun, vacations. He knows I'm not okay. He's even said it, but he gets so angry when he catches me crying. He tells me to leave because he can't handle this and to go be sad somewhere else. I'm still looking for work, still making the meals, still cleaning and managing bills, still getting dressed and planning dates, and I guess I look okay. But literally every time I'm alone I'm sobbing for at least a few minutes. I'm screaming every time I'm alone in the car. I'm repeating no, no, no and shocking myself out of sleep with horrible images. Literally every moment needs to be filled with sound or music to keep me distracted. I don't believe in God anymore and stopped wearing a religious locket I'd worn each and every day for the last 20 years. But still, I thought I was okay. Mostly, I don't think I'll ever really be okay again. But I've also developed an eating disorder which I don't feel is a control thing. And I needed to lose weight anyway. But, I am okay, right? Well, the moment of truth was, oddly enough, last night. We were watching the latest House of Dragons and, Police Light, spoiler alert, Police Light, when 2 of the dragons died. I got so upset I began to have a panic attack. My chest constricted and I started to hyperventilate and cry. It was only for a bit, and wasn't very noticeable. I hid it well, but that was so abnormally over the top for me. I always get upset when things die on screen. I didn't even watch Roadrunner cartoons growing up because I didn't like the coyote getting hurt. This felt overwhelming. That was the moment. I knew I wasn't okay, but I was in denial. Now, I can't deny it anymore. I'm not okay. I don't know what to do. Do most cheaters generally have reasons or justifications for why they do it? My husband and I are still really trying to work on our marriage. Honestly, we're at a point where it's either going to improve or it's going to end. I feel like the heart of my issues is the fact that he cannot fully take accountability for what he did. I've heard his reasons. I have given him depths of empathy. I do love him, after all. We were meeting with a new therapist this week and I feel like just hearing him justify things as we were going over our story yet again just felt like knives to my heart. For context, he never had a full-on physical affair. He did go to strip clubs and pay for backroom dances, but that's the only physical piece. The rest was him on dating apps on and off for years, culminating in finding out he was having a planned emotional affair with a former co-worker. I was 6 months pregnant at the time. He planned on proving to me that he could do that and still be a devoted husband, and was going to ask me to open the marriage because he has never been satisfied with our sex life. Listening to him get emotional with the therapist was maddening. He started by saying that I was removing the context, and that context matters. The context was that when he first started on the apps was after he had asked for therapy and I had refused, and he was unhappy and wanted a divorce, but I also refused. The next was, as I said earlier, our sex life was lacking and he decided at a certain point that he didn't want to live his life that way but that he always loved me and didn't want to divorce me over sex. So he chose to run a test where he wasn't completely hiding this woman. But I fairly quickly caught on to the relationship being suspicious and finally took him up on his offer to read their messages, which he'd offered the whole time. I just didn't feel I had a reason to read them because why would my husband cheat and also offer for me to see the proof? So I trusted him. He was upset while telling the therapist I hate that I'm compared to these other men who cheat for no reason, who have their vans want to eat it too. I had reasons to do what I did and I was very mindful about why I did it. It comes across to me as a total and complete lack of self-awareness and lack of accountability and a lack of care for me. He has always let the finger point to me. Even if he's gotten close to taking accountability, it still will end with him saying, "But you did XYZ to drive me there." Do most people have no reason for cheating? Or do they mostly all have these justifications and shitty mental spaces? I got engaged with the same engagement ring. My 32F boyfriend 30M of 3 years proposed to me with the same engagement ring from my previous relationship. I had gotten engaged at 24 before and married at 25 with my ex-husband, Xavier, same age. In the first year of our marriage, I got pregnant with my son, Lucas. During my pregnancy, me and Xavier both agreed that I should become a stay-at-home mom. My family and I cut ties and his family are in another state in order to lessen the cost of child expenses. Tragically, Xavier died at 27. Not to get into details, but he got involved in a drive-by shooting. I had no relative to turn to, and I couldn't afford to move to another state with my in-laws. So I moved out of our 2-bedroom apartment and instead moved into a 1-bedroom apartment to lessen the cost of rent. I got a job, hired a local babysitter for my son and slowly started to improve my state of life. Although in the first year, I had a lot of trouble balancing my finances and sold a bunch of stuff like jewelry and clothes just to get by. 1 month, I struggled to meet my quota, so, in defeat, I sold my engagement ring to a local pawn shop and barely got enough to pay my expenses. It really pained me to sell it because my memory of Xavier still lies within it. 2 years after his death, I met my now fiancé, Ethan. I was still hung up about Xavier, so I didn't even think about dating already, but Ethan changed my life. He asked me out after seeing me at a cafe, but I rejected him. After that, I bumped into him a few times small town, I know, and during those I started falling for him. Honestly, I felt dejected because it has only been a couple of years and I'm already moving on. But after pondering for a while, I realized that Xavier wouldn't want me to live all my life missing him and missing out on everything that will make me happy. The next time I bumped into Ethan, I asked him out on a date and he said yes. We started going out and it was the happiest I've been in years. Last week, Ethan proposed to me. Maybe it was my excitement or the tears in my eyes, but I didn't notice the ring's similarity from my old one. A friend of mine commented on this and then I realized that it does. I mean, there are millions of ruby rings in the world, but I couldn't shake off that feeling that this might be the same one. When Xavier proposed to me, he had engraved the ring with my initials. Realizing this, I took off the ring and looked, and there it was, my initials. It was the same ring. Ethan heard me from another room and came to the living room to see what the fuss was all about. I told him about the ring, how it was the same one, and the proof of it all. While I was explaining, I noticed a smile from Ethan. He was never affected by the fact that I was a widow. Instead, he is always supportive of this and loved hearing stories about Xavier. It really made me realize how lucky I was to have met this man. TLDR, my boyfriend of 3 years proposed to me with the same ring of my ex-husband's.